So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning into The Scoop. We have a really interesting episode of the show for you. Probably be maybe a bit more practical than usual in terms of giving you guys the equipment, tools you need to basically be safe out there in this wild world of crypto. Joining us on the other side of the mic is Jeff Lunglhofer of Coinbase. Sir, thanks so much for taking the time. We've got a lot to dive into. Maybe walk us through your role and just broadly sort of the mission that underpins Coinbase's journey to keep their users safe.
You bet. And thanks for having me, Frank. I'm Jeff Lunglhofer. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Coinbase. And in a nutshell, what that means is keeping our customers safe, keeping the company safe, keeping our assets safe, and making sure that our customers have the best, safest experience that they can at Coinbase. And, we pride ourselves on being the most trusted name in crypto, and that takes a lot of work. And that's what my team focuses on. I would say probably the most interesting thing that we do in the context of this conversation is helping customers that are dealing with scams, dealing with the kinds of bad events that do unfortunately happen, not just in crypto, but in any financial services and anybody who uses the online services these days. So we are often engaged helping customers, supporting them, talking about the security controls that they can use to keep themselves safe online. And I would love to get into that with you today.
There's two elements, right? Like there's an actual custody perspective. There's a custody aspect of it, which is keeping the assets safely stored. But there's also sort of this almost human element, I guess I would describe it as, which is giving people and equipping them with the right knowledge to know when maybe they might be engaging with an actor that is malicious.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I tell customers all the time, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And that's kind of a cliche. You hear that a lot. But I think it bears repeating over and over and over again. Let's talk about what I would say are the two most common ways that folks get attacked or approached by these bad actors. The first is your phone rings. You get that text message that says, "Hey, this is so-and-so from Coinbase, and I were calling you to talk to you about your account." And I'll tell you, Frank, they sound very convincing. They're going to sound just like you or I. They're going to be totally fluent in English. It's not your traditional, I'm a Nigerian prince and, the traditional joke from 20 years ago. No, this is highly organized, sophisticated folks that know how to approach you and how to address you as though they were a representative of, be it Coinbase, be it another exchange, be it a financial institution. They know how to talk to you. Another important thing that I ask people to keep in mind is a lot of times they will have information about you already as a consumer. So they may already know, they're going to know your name. They're going to know your phone number. They're going to know your email address.
They may even know where you last logged in from.
That's right. Absolutely. And they may know your crypto balances, right? And you'd think, oh my gosh, of course, this person's from Coinbase. They know. But what you don't realize as a consumer is that you signed up for that tax service, a year ago or 2 years ago. And oh, darn it, you uploaded your information there and that service had a compromise and that information was breached. What you don't know is that your phone number, your email address are all in these combo lists that are available to these bad actors.
So walk us through that, Jeff. How does that information sort of get out there into the public for the consumption of these hacker groups? Because It's not something that Coinbase is doing wrong necessarily.
Of course. Yeah. A great question. So anytime there's a breach of information anywhere on the internet, at any company, anywhere, what these groups will do is they will take that information, any information they can get on any individual consumer, any individual, and they will combine it with a large data set that they've compiled from breaches that have happened all across the internet. So big email breaches, big privacy breaches at other companies, the tax services that have been breached. They have access to all of those data sets and they create what are called combo lists, where they'll take all of that information and merge it together. And what they can do is they can take a piece of information on, I'll use you as an example. Oh, there's Frank's name. There's Frank's physical address. There's Frank's email address. There's Frank's phone number. There's Frank's banking information. There's Frank's social security number. And they may not get that from one breach. They might get that from a dozen breaches. And so they put all that information together. And by the time that person picks up the phone to call you, they have this dossier of information that's, of highly detailed, highly sensitive information on you. And that's what makes these attacks so effective.
I'm curious to know, how sort of these groups operate. you mentioned that they sort of go by a name, or there's sort of like a cadre of these folks working together. Who are these people that are targeting folks? And then maybe we can go through that specific example and explain how those things even happen.
So there are a number of actor groups that are out there that are focused on, and I want to be clear, this is not a Coinbase problem. This is not a crypto problem. They will target anybody who has assets on any financial platform, right? So they're going after traditional financial accounts. They would love to execute fraudulent wire transfers. You hear about that all the time as well. So I want to be clear. These types of attacks are facing, our customers are facing these attacks on any financial services or any platform that they may do business with. So it's really important for folks to be wary and cognizant anytime they're doing business online. The old scams of pretending to be a travel agent, business email compromise, getting you to send fraudulent wire transfers, that stuff is still happening. People are still losing tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars through those types of fraud as well. So not just a crypto problem here. That said, these actor groups, as I said, they're loosely coordinated. Lots of big egos, lots of younger folks that make a career out of doing this. I will say that these folks are also consumers of these financial institutions. They are consumers and familiar with crypto. They're familiar with Coinbase. They're familiar with other exchanges. They know what controls are available. They know what features are available on the platforms that the folks are using that they are targeting. So they are able to be incredibly effective at walking them through exactly what to do when unfortunately they are manipulating a customer into doing something at their behest, which ultimately winds up with them losing money. But the actor groups there's quite a few of them. There's the COM, that's a big one that we track. You can Google that and read up on that group, based in the US, Canada, and a couple of other locations. We know who some of those people are. We track them. We work with law enforcement when appropriate to help bring those folks to justice. And we work with our partners across the financial space as well to try and protect our customers as much as possible.
People really need to be careful because they are so sophisticated and have like almost a PhD level understanding of the business.
Yeah, the key is, Google will tell you a lot about a company. It'll tell you who companies are partnering with. It'll tell you who some of their service providers are. It'll tell you in some cases who insurance providers carry them and back them up. So a lot of this information is publicly available. This really harkens back, Frank, to what we started talking about, which is that the whole concept of a combo list, right? When someone calls you or reaches out to you via text, you can be rest assured that that person has done their homework. They have very carefully researched both you as the mark, and they've researched the company with which they're trying to get you to interact on their behalf, right? So they're going to have a detailed level of knowledge. And if they don't, and we've seen this when we've listened to some of the calls of these scammers, frankly, they'll make it up. But they will sound so convincing that you'll believe it because they'll pepper in a number of really important details about your account, like your account balances and transaction history. Hey, last year we see that you did this, just to confirm that this is really you that we're talking to. Oh, they just authenticated me. This must be Coinbase.
That's the other thing. There's this whole psychological element, which is it almost is like they want to make sure that you're not the scammer or the hacker in a sense in authenticating you. Which probably would put the average person less on the defensive, right?
I call that, I have a name for that. So I call that reverse authentication, where I'm talking to you, I've called you, but I'm going to make you feel like you've authenticated to me and vice versa. It's a nasty way to do it. And when I started my career, I was a penetration tester. I actually specialized in social engineering attacks because nobody on my team liked to do it. So I've actually done this. I've actually used these techniques, and I have to say they are unfortunately very effective. I mean, this person on the other end of the line will be your friend.
I guess maybe that's one red flag. If the customer service rep is too nice and too smart, you might be dealing with a hacker group.
Well, actually, let me give a piece of advice to all of your listeners. Anybody who's watching, anybody who's listening to this. There's one really important thing that I would ask you to do. If anyone calls you from a financial institution, I don't care if it's Coinbase, I don't care if it's Bank of America, if it's Wells Fargo, I don't care. If they call you, thank them and hang up the phone. Then get your credit card out, right? Pull out your credit card and go, okay, I'm going to call the number on the back of that credit card. I'm going to open my Coinbase account and I'm going to reach out to customer support directly through the app or through the website. Like call directly, make your own outreach, because if there's a legitimate concern and that call was legitimately from the institution, the person you reach is going to know that. They're going to see it in your file. They're going to understand it, and they're going to be able to help you, and you'll know that it's them. Now, one frustrating thing, Frank, that I want to put out there is that, unfortunately, some financial institutions are training consumers to do the wrong thing. Every time my bank calls me and tells me that they're concerned about credit card charges and they start asking me authentication questions, I'm like, stop. Please don't do this. I will call you back. Do not ask me for that information over the phone, because you're training me to do the wrong thing here. And I actually have some fun conversations with the real customer support reps from the banks, because they're calling me, asking me to do that. And I'm like, please, I'm begging you, stop. You're teaching people to do the wrong thing.
Is it safe to say Coinbase will never call you for this type of this kind of inquiry?
Never say never, but it would be extraordinarily rare, to the point where I'll say Coinbase will never call you. And I will say, if Coinbase does call you, please hang up the phone and reach out to customer support. Do what I just said, because they will know when you reach a customer support agent. They will see it in your file. They will understand why that call was made. But it is extremely unusual for us to reach out to a customer directly, even if we detect that a customer is potentially being defrauded. We will lock that account. We will shut it down, prevent funds from leaving our platform, and then we will wait for the individual to reach out to us, because we don't want to be in the business of trying to call customers and convince them. It's not a healthy habit. It's not good for the consumer, and it's not a practice that we want to use.
I'm curious, how common is this, and do you have a sense of the number of clients or the number of assets that have been moved to some of these wallets in a move that people thought was them protecting their funds or safeguarding them with Coinbase Wallet?
We have a number of customers at Coinbase. Okay, we have traditional custody customers. We also have self-custody customers. Okay, those are folks that are using Coinbase Wallet, which is our premier wallet platform. We also have smart contract wallets now that are even easier to use, that use passkeys for authentication. We have a number of tools that we have available for folks to self-custody their crypto. Now, we won't talk about this probably on this discussion, but we also have the ecosystem partners now, folks that are developing on Base, our premier L2 platform. So we have a lot of developers and folks that are using that platform to do some really amazing things in crypto. This particular attack, though, focuses on trying to convince a custodial customer to transfer assets off our platform into a self-hosted, a self-custodied wallet. And by the way, once you move it off of our platform, all of our fraud detection controls, all of our account takeover protections, all of our authentication protections, all that's meaningless at that point. You are now self-custodying that crypto, meaning you alone are responsible for the security. So I love every crypto customer. I want to support every crypto customer as the CISO here at Coinbase. But remember, if you are self-custodying, you are your own bank. You need to know what that means. You need to understand the security implications of that. And I love talking to customers who are self-custodying to make sure they understand what a wallet actually is. Most people, believe it or not, Frank, don't really understand the concept of a crypto wallet. They think it's like the wallet that's in your pocket that has cash in it. It's not the same thing. It's a radically different concept, and people have a tough time understanding that.
What is the recourse then after? If I am a victim of an attack like that, does Coinbase step in and maybe help? Is there insurance around? Is there real insurance around something like this? It's not like it's Coinbase's fault per se, so I don't think you guys are liable to replenish funds. But what are the sort of next steps after something like this happens?
If you do find yourself the victim of a crime like that, the first thing we recommend that everybody do is immediately file a police report, immediately contact the authorities. If it's a large theft, we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, which does happen. Unfortunately, you may be able to get the FBI's attention and get some support from them. Unfortunately, in terms of recourse, in terms of clawing back funds, that is generally not possible. That's the power of crypto, is that it is permissionless and is immutable when you make a transaction. That's a very powerful thing. But, as our favorite superheroes will say, with great power comes great responsibility. And so that's why I really encourage folks to go on the self-custody journey. I think it's great that people do that, but be careful. Make absolutely sure that you know what you're doing. Have a wallet security strategy where I'll give an overview of my wallet, my personal wallet strategy, because I self-custody crypto myself. I have quite a bit on Coinbase as well, as I'm sure you can imagine, but I also self-custody. And when I self-custody my crypto, I have a series of wallets that I treat very differently. I have a Ledger hardware-based wallet where I have cold keys that have never been, fully online. They've never been connected to the internet. That's where I put the things that I really, really, really care about. High value assets, things that mean a lot to me personally, like my ETH ENS name, things like that. I keep there. Now, then I have another wallet that I keep on a device that I don't use very often. I don't use it frequently. I don't have that key backed up on any password managers or anything like that. And I'll keep a moderate amount of crypto there. I can get to it pretty quickly if I need to. But then I have my walking around wallet, right, which is on my phone. It's easy for me to access, and I keep a reasonable amount of money in that, where if I click on a DApp or something really bad happens to me, okay, somebody picked my pocket. I get it. That happens. But it's not the end of the world. It's walking around money. It's stuff I'm using for fun and having a good time in the crypto ecosystem. I'm using the new social media capabilities on Base. I'm using the new DEX that came out, to trade some coins on Solana, things like that. Nothing significant that would be impactful to me as a person.
It's interesting when you think about how these folks are getting more sophisticated. How does Coinbase kind of keep up with that growing level of sophistication? And then aside from conversations like this, where we're focusing on educating, how do you communicate with customers ways to stay safe and then keep them safe?
Yeah, it's really conversations like this are so important. Just reminding folks, like, don't talk to someone if they call you directly. Like if I could just whisper that 10 times in every customer's ear and have them really hear it, it would save so much trouble for folks. So it's really reinforcing those messages. We also have our blogs that we publish. So if you look at Coinbase.com and you go to our blog site, what you'll see there are a number of awareness pieces that we put together. We've actually gone so far, Frank, as to walk through some of these social engineering attacks, like step by step, how they happened. And like, okay, at this step, here's what you should have been thinking about as a consumer. And we'll walk through real cases, not of course with real details in it, but real cases that we've seen so that customers can sort of read through that and go, oh gosh, I never realized it would be so convincing. I never realized I could be a victim of a scam. And that's what I really want people to realize, Frank, is that anyone can be a victim of a scam. You can be a victim. I can be a victim. Like anyone can be a victim. The people I worry about the most are the people who are like, oh, that could never happen to me. I'm way too on top of things. No, I'm telling you, in the right set of circumstances, you could be defrauded. This is something I used to do, obviously, as a white hat, ethically, to test folks and to test companies. And what I will tell you is that when running an attack like this, you are targeting the human condition. You are targeting human nature. And human nature, right? The first thing I want to do when I get on the phone with you is I want to make you like me. I want you to think I'm your friend, because you're not mean to your friend. You don't tell your friend no, right? And we are social creatures. When we interact with someone that we generally like, that we think has our best interest in heart, we generally will start to treat that person with a great deal of respect, and we want them to be in our sort of social circle. And that is the weakness that these folks are exploiting. It's horrible. It's awful what they're doing, but that's exactly what they do. And as I said, anyone can be a victim. You asked a really good question, though, about like, what are we doing to stay ahead of this here at Coinbase? I think that's a great question. We talked about the blogs. We talked about things we publish in conversations like this. But one thing we haven't talked about, when we speak to customers, I always say, when you're dealing with Coinbase, when you're dealing with Gmail, when you're dealing with your bank, always select the strongest form of multi-factor authentication that's available. And think about your online presence and the things that really matter for you. And the one thing that people forget about a lot is their personal email address. So, for example, if your Gmail address that you've had for 20 years, 25 years, right, is such an embedded part of your online life that if someone can control your Gmail address, they can take over almost any account that you have access to. Full stop. They can get the emails. They can intercept the alerts that are coming in. They can do some really, really nasty things. So I think folks are starting to think about, okay, their bank, their Coinbase, they get it. They're using strong multi-factor authentication, but think about your Gmail. Think about that. Is that secure? I go so far as to have a physical security token for my Gmail account. I actually have to have a YubiKey, which is my choice of U2F token, but there's a number of suppliers out there. I have a physical key that I have to put into my phone when I log in for the first time to a new phone or to a new device. That's the way I want it, because you can't phish that. You can't talk me out of giving you my YubiKey. You just can't. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't give you that. So those are the kinds of things that I encourage folks to do, is always pick the strongest form of authentication available and think broadly, more than just your bank. Think about your whole online persona.
You don't think that it can happen to you, but it absolutely can. It's so easy. And it's happened to me where certain accounts have gone breached and I had to upgrade my own security level for different accounts and just 2FA everything, even if it seems it's insignificant. Because leaving anything open, to your point, creates those attack vectors for people. They can get into, a Cash App account that you maybe have $200 in and you don't care. That can lead them down alternate roads to get to the stuff that really matters to you.
That's right. It's the aggregation of your online persona. The more footholds they can gain across that, the more devastating the attacks can be. SMS authentication and multi-factor authentication is a great example, is something that everybody should stay away from as much as possible. Do not use your cell phone as an authenticator. Don't get.
Well, it's so easy. It's so easy for them to get the numbers, right?
You can give it to a fraudster over the phone, but also they can SIM swap you and they can receive those codes directly, right? So it is easy. It's easy for an attacker. It's easy for the consumer, but easy when it comes to a really impactful to you personally account, like a crypto account or a retirement account or something. Easy is not good. I want it to be hard to get access to those funds. I want it to be difficult. I put as much friction on those accounts as I possibly can. And that's what I really encourage everybody to do.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely avoid message.
SMS. Avoid it.
Yeah, it seems easy. It seems like you're doing something, but it's kind of it's not real. It's not actual security in any respect.
One step above a password, a tiny little step above a password, not much.
But is it getting worse, Jeff? It seems like SIM swapping is becoming less of an occurrence, but this sort of social engineering that we talked about for most of the show is becoming more prevalent. Is that a fair assessment? It
is. Anytime we implement a control that sort of shuts down a particular avenue of fraud, that fraud will pivot. The fraudsters will pivot their behavior. They will try a different angle. So let me take it to the very extreme level here. So we talked about using U2F tokens, physical tokens to secure access, right? How would you compromise a consumer of a bank or any other financial institution, Coinbase, sure. How would you compromise somebody who had an account that was locked up that required a physical token? There is a way to do it, right? How you do it is you call the person, social engineer them, and you get that person to install remote access software on the computer and grant you access. So if somebody's ever trying to help you with a problem that you're having with a bank or a financial institution, or heaven forbid Coinbase or any other crypto exchange, and they want to install software on your computer so that they can see your screen and control your screen, don't do it. Never, ever, ever will anyone legitimate ask to install software on your machine so that they can control it and help you remotely. That will not happen. from Coinbase ever. That will never happen, for sure. And so, we do see, as I said, even though we put these layers and layers of controls to prevent the attacks, we have seen that happen to customers before, where they will give complete control of their entire computer. And now from our perspective, they're using the YubiKey. They're coming from an IP we've seen before. It's the same device. That's excruciatingly difficult for us to detect. Now, with that said, I'm happy to say that there are instances that we have worked, that my team has worked, where the person's Gmail account has been compromised. Their Coinbase credentials have been compromised. The actor had remote control of their desktop. They had access to all the authentication tokens, and we were still able to prevent that customer from losing funds. The way we did that is we have machine learning models that look at the behavior of an account and will make decisions. Hey, does this look legitimate or not? And if we see certain patterns of behavior, we will just say, you know what? Stop. We need to look at this. We need human eyes on this type of transaction. And we will divert that to agents who actually will look at the account and say, you know what? This customer has done these things over the last 6 months, 12 months. Why are they consolidating all of their assets into one? Why are they now trying to move it out? Like, what is going on? You know what? We're going to go ahead and just pause this for right now, and we're going to stop this transaction from happening. And make sure that let that customer reach out to us and kind of figure out what's going on. We have saved customers from account takeovers and losing money in that set of circumstances, which to me, that's like the holy grail. When somebody has that level of access and we can block a theft, that is, in a world where sometimes we deal with folks that are having bad days, to have something like that happen is just fantastic.
How does Coinbase protect itself? And how do you guys ensure that you don't become a victim to any sort of social engineering, right? You see the movies, and there have even been examples in our own industry where people manage to get access to, let's say, something as simple as your computer, right? Because maybe they take the time to become your friend, and then maybe they're over for coffee and they find their way into your office and then get access to your computer. Super specific example, which probably would never happen, but effectively, to put a finer point on the question, how do you ensure that that level of social engineering doesn't happen to folks internally?
Yeah, great question. And we do, our staff do face social engineering attacks for sure. We've seen that. And in fact, about, a year and a half ago or so, we saw several waves of campaigns that were targeting our own employees. And we also saw social engineering, to be clear. They were like the texts and the phone numbers, the phone calls saying, hey, you need to log in. We need you to do X, Y, and Z. We also saw across industry a number of attacks that were hitting other companies that were leveraging a technique called push fatigue. And I'll explain what that is. That's when if let's say I'm able to phish your credentials and you're an engineer of a company and I'm trying to get access to that company, and I send you a phishing link and I get your username and your password. I'm going to try and log in as the bad actor. I'm going to try and log in as Frank, right, into that company and gain access to everything you have access to. A lot of companies have multi-factor authentication now, which is great. One of the common forms of that is called, we'll do what's called send you a push request. So your phone will go, bloop, do you accept this login? I don't know, who, deny. What the actor will do is they'll wait until 3:00 in the morning, your local time, and they'll start blowing up your phone with push requests until finally you're like, maybe I ran a script or I did something that's broken, and except I'm going back to bed. And we call that push fatigue, where you just wear down. You do that to 200 people. One of them is just going to click the wrong button, or they're going to get tired of it and just press OK and go back to bed. We saw that happening. So that didn't happen to us, but we saw that. We made the decision, and within about 2 months, we required now physical YubiKeys, physical U2F tokens for any access to Coinbase. So to log into any of our accounts, any of our services, any of our systems at all, you have to have a physical hardware token. We used to support push authentication. We no longer do. So that's one of the things that we do. We constantly track kind of not just how are we being attacked, but what kind of attacks are happening across industry? What are the techniques that they're using? Are we vulnerable to those? Because rest assured, Frank, we're going to see them. We're going to see those attacks, right? So we need to get ahead of that as much as possible. So that was a great example of us making a decision, doing that. And then lo and behold, by the way, about 6 months later, we had an employee get phished. It happens. It can happen to anybody. Let's be clear. They put in their credentials. It went nowhere. The attacker was able to get absolutely nowhere because they, of course, didn't have access to that physical token. So those are the kinds of things that we do to make sure that, our computers, our people are as safe as possible.
Jeff, when you think about like the next 6 to 12 months, this is something that, we don't have a lot of guests come on the show to talk about this type of topic. I'm curious, what are the themes? What are the trends that are on the horizon for information security in crypto over the next 6 to 12 months? What are you paying the most attention to?
Well, so you asked the question very specifically about crypto. So I'm going to answer that one first. Then I'm going to talk more broadly about, just safety and attacks that consumers can expect in the future. So crypto, I think what I'm expecting and what we're preparing for is a lot more on-chain type security requirements, a lot more on-chain security issues, right? So what do I mean by that? Think about your traditional bank. Where I come from a large financial institution where I was before I came to Coinbase. And what I can tell you is that huge data centers, giant firewalls, segmented systems, highly segmented systems, lots of internal systems that are very isolated. The ecosystem of finance, of traditional finance, is a very closed ecosystem. Now let's juxtapose crypto. It is the most open ecosystem you could possibly imagine, right? The networks that we do business with, the chains that we interact with, from Dogecoin to Bitcoin to Ethereum, and all the Ethereum level 2 networks, level 3, level 4, they're coming, right? All the different networks that are out there, they all have their own code bases. They all have their own features. And as a crypto exchange and as a consumer, you're interacting with those features. So we've got to deal with our own systems. Our customers have to deal with their own systems. We have to deal with the dApps and the services that we're interacting with that run on chain, which are dynamically driven by smart contracts that can be updated and changed. And you can get phished on chain now. That's a new thing, right? The airdrop tokens that have phishing links in them. And now we also have to deal with the chains themselves updating and evolving and offering new features. So there's a tremendous amount of dynamic change between that like level 1 blockchain all the way to that customer's wallet and the code that drives that wallet. And there are potential for security issues at every single link across that entire ecosystem. So I think we're going to see continue to see smart contract issues, continue to see bridge compromises, issues with chains that do lots of updates. They're going to roll updates that can cause security implications. I think that's going to be inevitable, and that's something that we are very keenly conscientious of, and we are monitoring very carefully. Not just now the health of our own internal systems. We're monitoring the chains themselves to make sure that there aren't issues that could manifest to hurt our customers on chain.
There's no rest for the wicked. Thanks so much for taking the time to join the program.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Frank.
Yeah, this was fantastic. Thanks.